watching Sun TV, broadcasting to the world from studios in Providenciales, in the beautiful by nature Turks and Caicos Islands. Sun TV, your source for real news as it happens.
Dr. Rufus Ewing to address Caricom leaders in Haiti next week. PNP confident about winning the Cheshire Hall by-election. Government working on a plan to increase the population in TCI. Premier said he is not timid when it comes to Governor Rick Todd. And persons who've been living in the TCI for many years will be given a chance to make this country their home. These are the headlines, and I'm Toddlyn Dafferlin. Thanks for watching Sun TV. Premier Honorable Dr. Rufus Ewing says Turks and Caicos Islands will be seeking to establish closer ties with its Caribbean neighbors. As the first step in that direction, the Premier and Minister of Immigration Honorable Donald Gardner will lead a delegation on the Caricom Heads of Government meeting in Port-au-Prince from February 18 to 20th. In what will be a historic occasion, Premier Ewing has been invited to address Caricom Heads of Government during a session on Monday. The Premier told reporters at a press conference on Wednesday that he will use the occasion to update regional leaders on some very important matters that are affecting the Turks and Caicos Islands, which has been an associate member of Caricom since July 1991.
Before the suspension of our constitution, the Turks and Caicos enjoyed being an associate member of Caricom. After the suspension, we did not enjoy that privilege. And so it is our intention to be reinstated as an associate member of Caricom. I specifically asked the Secretary General and the Chairman of Caricom to be placed on the agenda of that Caricom meeting and to address the Caricom Heads of Government pertaining to the state of affairs in Turks and Caicos, and also what took place over the last 3 or 4 years and where Turks and Caicos will be going in the future. We will be looking forward to their support, and we will also take the opportunity to network with our regional colleagues as we push Turks and Caicos forward into the future here in this Caricom, in this Caribbean region.
Stressing that he'd be networking with regional colleagues and telling the TCI story firsthand, Premier Ewing said he will also be asking for Caricom's support in dealing with vet and democracy in the TCI. He also took the opportunity at the press conference to give an update on the UK response to the vet repeal bill, which was passed by both the PNP and PDM party 2 weeks ago.
We will be asking them for their support in fighting for democracy in Turks and Caicos, of which VAT is one of those things that we consider a violation of democracy, because the people, as well as the representative of the people, have spoken in the House of Assembly, and we only think it's fair that the decision of the elected representative of the people is upheld. At this point in time, since the House unanimously voted for the VAT repeal bill that was presented to the House, we have not yet received an official response from the Minister for the Foreign Criminal Office, Minister Simmons. I was told that the response will be coming shortly, but it has now been almost 2 weeks since the House has met, and we have not yet received a response with regards to what will be done to that bill, whether or not the governor will assent to the bill or not. But however, if that response is not forthcoming by the time we address Caricom, our tune will be in the sense that we will need the support of Caricom to ensure that the British, the UK government live up to the principles of democracy.
Dr. Ewing, who studied and lived in Barbados and Jamaica, and who regards himself as a Caribbean man, said trade and investment opportunities in the Caribbean should be explored by TCI. He also said the TCI will be interested in how a new tax by the U.S. government will affect the country's tourism.
One who can consider myself a Caribbean man. I've been schooled and lived in many Caribbean countries, and I think we as Turks and Caicos, we ought to foster much greater ties with our Caribbean neighbors, and looking for trade and investment and opportunities wherever they may exist. One of the main topics on the agenda of Caricom that I know that most of the Caribbean countries are looking at is the issue of FATCA, which is the Foreign Accounts Trade Act by the U.S. Tax Compliance Act by the U.S. government. And this Foreign Accounts Tax Compliance Act came into effect, and most Caribbean countries have not yet complied. And so there's a question as to who will and how they go about complying with this FATCA, which could affect the offshore financial industry. I think Cayman Islands, I think, is the only one thus far that have almost fully complied.
Premier Dr. Rufus Ewing says the Progressive National Party is confident about winning the by-election in the Cheshire Hall in Richmond Hill on March 22nd, but he said the party will not be taking any chances. The PNP's Amanda Mizik and the PDM's Aurel Silva will face off again. After Madam Justice Margaret Ramsey Hale ruled that the election in the constituency must be done over, here's what he had to say.
I think our chances are very good. It is close if you can consider 38 plus 50 plus 30 plus 58 close. Then I don't consider that really close, given how elections go nowadays, considered the 6 in other places. But our chances are great. But we're not taking anything for granted. We're not leaving any stone unturned. And we are going to go out in full force in campaign at the same time, while we continue to govern against all obstacles of governance that we've faced so far. We continue to go out and govern and do our best in governance. We have to recognize that campaigning, hitting the ground is not people all the time seeing you in big rallies, but like any war, you have to prepare and you have to be strategic in your preparation and your approach. But we will definitely increase our presence even more so as the next few days and weeks go by.
The Premier also responded to opposition leader Charlene Robinson, who said last week that the PNP was just warming seats in the House of Assembly. He accused her of grandstanding and chatting, which he said is totally different from having to run a country.
They're government and waiting. Yeah, I'm sure they're a couple of years out. They can continue to wait. And I'm sure there'll be some hot benches by the time we leave it, because we'll be here for a few years. What I must say, however, is that some of the statements that have been made, there's a big difference between grandstanding in the House behind a desk and making chatter, as opposed to actually having the responsibility to make decisions and govern on a day-to-day basis.
Exactly.
You have to put yourself in a decision-making position.
That's right.
When the decision rests on your shoulders and your shoulders alone, before you can say how good you are at governing. Governance is not just standing up and talking. Anybody can stand up and talk and talk at the top of their head.
Premier Ewing also dismissed reports that he was timid when it comes to dealing with Governor Rick Todd.
I am not timid when it comes to the governor, and sometimes you don't have to get overtly loud and confrontational for public spectacle. You need to be diplomatic, and you need to do what you need to do in a diplomatic way, in a strategic way. The governor has a lot to do, and we have a lot to do. And you will see how timid I am in a short while.
Minister of Immigration Don Gardner says government is working on a comprehensive immigration plan which will embrace persons who have been living in the Turks and Caicos Islands for many years. During a press conference on Wednesday, Gardner explains how the plan will work.
Yes. In the ministry, what we're doing is that we're actually in the process of reviewing the numbers that could potentially fall within that group, and then making a decision as to how best we could incorporate them into the permanent, into a group of persons that would have permanent status here. Now, whether that permanent status would be by way of permanent residency certificate or by way of Turks and Caicos Islander status is something that is left to be determined by the Parliament. Presently, we are working on a draft immigration law. Most of the non-contentious parts of it have been settled in terms of what we are prepared to propose to Parliament as changes to incorporate within that legislation. The more contentious parts that would deal with issues such as Turks and Caicos Islander status and how it is achieved, and matters that deals with permanent residency status and how it is achieved. Those matters, we as a government have decided that we would refer to a select committee of the House of Assembly for consultation, so that when the bill or a bill comes to Parliament, that it would be something on the issue of the grants of Turks and Caicos Islander status and the grant of permanent residency status that is something that can be supported by persons on both sides of the aisle. And so we have taken the approach that it should not be a PNP issue or a PDM issue, but an issue that all of us in the TCI could actually live with going forward.
The Turks and Caicos Islands needs to have more than the current 30,000 residents in order to sustain a growing economy. This view was expressed by Premier Rufus Ewing and Immigration Minister Don Gardner, who both agreed that an increased population in the TCI is absolutely necessary. They said that government is actively working on attracting greater numbers to the TCI. We hear more in this report.
What we are doing in the Ministry of Employment Services, Labor, is we are about to embark on a skills audit. Based on that skills audit and based on a review of manpower needs generally, we would be able to then formulate a population policy that could better sustain an economy. My view is that a population of 30,000, this is my personal view, is that a population of 30,000 is not sufficient to sustain an economy. And we have actually witnessed the decline in our economy when we have had with the recent recession, the number of persons that have left and what that meant to persons who had apartments to rent and other things and other businesses that have now been left vacant and not being able to reap an income from their investment. We need to ensure that there is sufficient population that we can sustain an economy. What that number is, I do not know. I would not even pretend to know. I know that we are in the process of beginning an audit that will inform a sensible population policy going forward.
The target number in terms of population has not yet been determined, but it is our policy that we are committed to growing this population, because that's the way we're going to drive the economy. Ways in which we're going to do that is, one, through job creation, various developments, and once you have a lot, especially construction sector, come on board, you have more people within the sector who can help to contribute to the economy. Two, long-term residents, persons on long-term residence, we need to be looking at that as a niche market in itself, We have a lot of the family islands that are underpopulated, persons who could benefit from retirement type residency status in Turks and Caicos who do not necessarily have the right to vote, and who may not necessarily be on the path for citizenship, could enjoy our beautiful by nature Turks and Caicos Islands as their retirement homes and spending money in our economy. So those are the kinds of market we're looking at. We'll also be looking at attracting back home by growing the economy back home, our Turks and Caicos Islanders who might have left these shores to go to the Bahamas in the U.S. And it's important that we attract those persons, put specific programs in place to have a homecoming and bring those persons back home to Turks and Caicos. And so those are some of the strategies that we'll be using to grow the population base. In addition to regularizing those persons who are here now, that you just, Mr. just mentioned, Honorable just mentioned in regards to long-term, long-stay residents who do not have any permanent status in Turks and Caicos.
I'm Todd Lane Dafferlin, and thanks for watching Sun TV. Join us again tomorrow when we bring you more news as it happens, directly to your computer or mobile device.